In this video, I'm going to talk about one of the assignment of making a virtual private network, creating an RDS system, and finally using an EC2 instance to use that. So to do that, what we have to do first is, let me go back to all the services. So these are all the services. The ones that we would require is EC2, which would work as the front end with the SQL server. We would require the S3 storage. We would require the relation database. We would require the IAM, and we would require to make the VPN, which is isolated crowd resource, which is this one. So these are the tools that we are going to require. Before I move ahead, let me take you through all of the things that we would be touching through. So our EC2 instance would work as a front end. We would have Windows installed there. They allow a free tier window, so um, I have two EC2 instances that are stopped but that I generally run. I have Ubuntu, and I have Windows server, which I use as a front end where I manually install SQL management tool. Just a reminder that when we want to launch a new instance and they give us option to start a new instance, when we want to require Windows as front end only and we don't want the server, then we don't want the one with the SQL server, because this would act as a server and the front end. We don't want the server to be there. We want the server to be on RDS service. So I'm not going to choose this one, but I'm going to choose the other one where it's just Windows server and not the SQL, and I'm going to install SQL manually there. Okay, coming back. So that was the EC2 part. I'm going to install storage where I could scale it up, where the charges are based on the MB that I store. So it's not a hard storage, but it's a light storage. So I created this bucket. The charges are based on these MB, so I'm not allocating 10 GB or 5 GB, but I can just upload it, and it would be based on the amount I upload. The third part just below that is relational database. I'm using SQL Server as my backend, and I have installed SQL Express, which comes free. Right now AWS allows 20 GB of free space on the SQL Server. I have stopped my instance because it's expensive to keep it running. There are some settings which we are going to look at. We are going to look at VPN setting, subnet group, security group, option group, parameter group. These are the 5 settings that I configured here. And then we are going to look at VPC. So I want to create an isolated instance where nobody can talk to my SQL server. The only way to talk to my RDS SQL server is through my EC2 instance, which would lie on my virtual private network. If I want to access it from any other computer, I would do a tunneling through my computer. So I would create a tunnel to my EC2 instance, and from there I would access the SQL database. So this is my private VPC. So right now I have a private VPC that I'm going to use. I'm going to talk about the configuration a little later. After VPC, sometimes when the identity management becomes tough, where you want to give access to a particular IP, I would rather skip that step and create roles to access my computer, or to access RDS. So one way is to tell RDS that allow everything that comes from a particular IP inside the virtual private network. The other way is to create roles where my EC2 instance get complete rights to do whatever it wants on the RDS. And of course the other way is to go there on the RDS and then change the setting there of whom do you want to give control. Several ways to give the security setting. So these are the services that I'm going to use. So my end goal is to create something like this, which will have a DB. Ignore the mirror part, but yeah, they have the mirror part, so we can do that. We have private subnet A, private subnet B, public subnet A, public subnet B, and we have DB management EC2. This is an EC2 instance with Windows Server. This is my RDS, and this is in availability zone A and availability zone 2. So the internet gateway would come here. It would access the DB2. We generally do this by RDS, the Windows Remote Desktop tool, and then we would link it up to the RDS master, which would only allow this IP to jump in. So this is what we want to do. We want to create an AWS bucket, so SQL Server can talk to that and get data from the SQL bucket.